Let's talk about earnest money, shall we? In Minnesota, when you get under contract, you have 2 days to submit your earnest money to the sellers, and they hang on to it through the transaction. If you cancel under a contingency, you get that money back, and if you cancel outside of a contingency, the seller gets to keep that money, or so you think. I'll tell you a story that happened with me recently. Had a seller. We had buyers that were cash. We were through all the contingencies, and then they just woke up one day and decided, we no longer want this home. So the sellers get to keep the earnest money, correct? Or so you think. Basically what happened is they delivered the cancellation, and I said, no big deal, we'll just keep the earnest money and good luck to your buyers. And they said, no, we want our earnest money back. And I said, but you're canceling outside of contingency. You have no right to that money back. And so what they did, as a lot of buyers do, because nobody wants to just give up $5,000, is they started to sandbag, as we call it in the biz, and just stopped responding. So what happens in that scenario? What if they refuse to sign it? Well, in Minnesota, we have a thing called statutory cancellation, where you have to get a document, you have to get it notarized, you have to have it served, and then after 15 days, if they don't respond or agree to mediation, the sellers keep the earnest money and the contract cancels. But what seller wants to do that? They just want to move on with their life, get back on the market, get another offer, and just get it going. Well, in this case, I had someone reach out that said, we love the home, keep us informed if anything happens with this offer, because we'll be there to swoop in and do the thing. And so when the cancellation came in and they started sandbagging, I called this agent and I said, are you guys still in? And he said, heck yeah, we're still in. They submitted an offer. It was contingent on the cancellation of the other purchase agreement. And eventually the buyers got their way. My sellers just wanted these toxic people out of their lives, and they signed the cancellation and gave them a refund, even though they really didn't want to. But that's how it goes. And I've been on the end of this on both sides. I had a seller, we were 2 weeks from closing, some, personal family emergency things came through, and she couldn't sell. She had to cancel. And it was during the craziness, and the buyer was like, no, you're not going to cancel. Like, I'm buying your house. Good luck. And we kind of sandbagged, because what's the process if a seller doesn't want to close and a buyer wants to move forward? Well, it goes to the court. You have to file a notice to perform, and the whole time the seller gets to live in the house until it's executed, and then they're either forced to sign the document, or then you have to move on to the eviction process. You have to evict the seller from the house. You have to execute the contract without them being a part of it, and then you take over the house. And back then, this was like COVID time. To even get in front of a judge was like 6 months. What buyer is going to want to go through that? They'll just buy a different house, but I'm sure there's those 1 in a million houses where there's nothing else like it, and they're going to force the sale, and I'm sure it's happened. But in any scenario, there's ways that people can kind of muck up the works, as we like to say, and not everything is cut and dry. So get yourself a good agent, like me.